We have 2, 3, and 4 football teams going at it on Saturday in Arizona. As the West Virginia Mountaineers, who were 3 and 4 overall and 2 and 2 in the Big 12, travel to Arizona to take on the Wildcats, who are also 3 and 4 overall, but sit 1 and 3 in Big 12 play. Both teams on losing streaks. Which one of these teams can pull out a victory? That's what we're talking about tonight in episode 13 of the Gold and Blue Breakdown Show. My name is Couz, and I'm here with my partner and co-host, Jonathan Martin. Jonathan, how are you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm good, Couz. Just like a marriage, in the good and the bad, Here we are. So, we've done these shows where we felt good. We felt a lot of excitement. We felt maybe we're back, and sometimes we feel maybe we're not back. And sometimes our backs are against the wall, but we're going to do it either way. So it's one of these weeks where our backs may be against the wall a little bit. Things are off the rails, it seems, but like a good marriage, here we are.
Yep, absolutely. We are here. We're not abandoning our team or our post. All right. For those of you who might be new here, here's how we do this thing. We give you we'll do a brief recap of last week's game. Then we'll give you our 3 keys to the game for the upcoming game, which this week is Arizona. We'll each give you our 2 top position battles, and then we'll each give you a key player to watch for the Mountaineers. And then at the end, we will give our score predictions. But before we get into all of that, I have to give a quick shout-out to the channel sponsor, Cats, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner. So stick around. We'll be back in about 35 seconds. Since 1931, the attorneys at Cats, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner have been the voice for victims who have suffered serious injury or death. They have a fierce passion for truth and justice and a sincere compassion for those who have been wronged by others. Whether you have been in a car accident or fighting with an insurance company, or you or a loved one has suffered serious injury or death due to medical negligence, we will ensure your voice is heard loud and clear. Cats, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner will ensure there is justice for all West Virginians because we are your lawyer, your voice. Visit us at yourlawyeryourvoice.com. All right, thank you for sticking around, and also thank you to Cats, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner for helping us keep the lights on. And by the way, if you are located in the state of Virginia, they can also assist you with your medical malpractice or personal injury needs. All right, Jonathan, let's do a quick recap of West Virginia's loss. Drubbing. Let's call it a drubbing by the hands of the Kansas State Wildcats, man.
Yeah, it's almost texted you today, Couz, and said, can we just skip it? Maybe not for you, because those that watched the show, you actually thought it might be a sneaky good pick on West Virginia. We talked about the reasoning there, and well, I mean, hey, it would have been so West Virginia, so Neil Brown, right?
Yep.
So I didn't hate the pick. I didn't necessarily agree with it, but I didn't hate it. So for some of us, for me, just felt like we saw it coming. Wanted to believe, but just couldn't. I will say, and this before you get in my mentions on social media, I'm not going full Neil Brown here, but I would have been curious to see what happened the second half of the game with a healthy football team. Again, it's not an excuse, but I think anybody that follows West Virginia football knows West Virginia football, knows how much Garrett Greene means to this team. I think they realize Jahiem White brings a different dynamic to this offense. And I think everybody believes that Wyatt Milum is going to play offensive line at the next level. It's not an excuse, Couz. It's not. I'm not going to pull Neil Brown here. But there's validity in that, I believe. But if we're also being honest with ourselves, even at halftime, I don't know that we felt great, right? And like I ended the show with last week, it's just it's another number in the wrong column for Neil Brown. It just keeps getting worse. So tough pill to swallow, man.
Yep.
I hate it. We're in a rough spot right now. Hopefully going out west cures a little bit. We'll see.
Maybe.
But it was not the performance you wanted once again on primetime TV with a top-ranked team in your house.
Correct. Agreed, 100%. Not sure I have a lot to add to that. The injuries definitely didn't help, but I also did not see a lot in the first half that gave me a lot of hope, just to be frank. The continued turnovers.
Yeah.
Kansas State was the more physical team. It looked like, to be honest, our guys were getting bullied out there a little bit. Some of it, to be frank, some of it looked a little bit unnecessary on Kansas State's part, but it's football, man. And when teams are doing that to you, you get them back by being physical, back with them, obviously within the rules of the game. And it just seemed like Kansas State was more physical. Seemed like they were the tougher team on that night, and just kind of had their way with West Virginia, unfortunately. And just they were the better football team at the end of the day.
They were. It just we could pick the game apart a little bit, especially in the first half. I felt like I felt personally, and I may be in the minority on this. I felt like you should have kicked that field goal to end the first half. I want to be clear. I didn't hate the decision to go for it. I did not hate it. I'm not mad at it. I'm not second guessing it. But my reasoning behind it was because I felt like you were down 17-3, and you clawed back into that game, and you put a drive together to end that half that I felt like, while there's no guarantees, I felt like mentally this team needed points on the board. And it could have went one or two ways, and it could have went that you scored a touchdown. All of a sudden, 17-3, 17-7, and all bets are off. Mm-hmm. But I just felt like internally you needed to see points. You needed to validate that drive. And so that plus the injuries just didn't help. And the second half was a disaster. It just was. I mean, I had people telling me end of the third, start of the fourth, it just was empty and it was ugly. It's not what you want on a primetime national televised game, but especially back-to-back weeks, right? So
right. And Kansas State had guys injured too. I want to make that clear. Most of their secondary, I think, was out injured with injuries. Oklahoma State played a game with their three best defensive players out injured. This is a time of year when almost every team is playing
everybody
with some form of injury. So you can't use it as an excuse. The other guys have to be ready to go, and you got to plug and play and go with it. So
just a frustrating night, but we could spend an hour talking about that. We won't, thankfully, but frustrating. But hey, as Neil Brown would say, they're not going to cancel the season right now, even though some would maybe prefer that. We're going to play football Saturday night again, prime time for those of us out here on the East Coast. So it's time to go.
That's right. Speaking of going, let's go ahead and go to our next segment, which is 3 keys to victory. We're each going to give one key each, and we'll obviously alternate. What is your first key to victory against the Arizona Wildcats this week, Jonathan?
Yeah, so again, I want to remind those, most probably have watched our prior episodes, but I do want to say for those that are new that we don't share these notes because of the situation West Virginia's in right now. If you follow the West Virginia program more than, say, Arizona or just some other Big 12 teams, it's possible that we might share some tonight because mine are going to be a little bit different, and yours might be as well. But my first one is next man up. A key to the game is going to be the next man up. West Virginia's got a lot of question marks, Couz, going into this game, health related. And as we sit here a couple days before the game recording this, we don't know that is Wyatt Milum going to play. Is Garrett Greene going to play? Is Jahiem White going to play? We know Jaden Bray, wide receiver, is not going to play. We know Aubrey Burks on the defensive secondary is out. TJ Crandall, cornerback, didn't play last week. What's his status? I even wrote down TJ Jackson left the game hurt. What's his status? I know Neil updated some of those to potential, probably, questionable. You could use whatever words you wanted. Mm-hmm. Because this team's back is against the wall, and it's at least the potential's there that you're going to go out west and play somebody with a backup quarterback, a third string running back. You're going to have third and fourth string secondary players, backup tackle. So for me, a key is just the next man up. Who's going to step up and play? because Arizona is not going to feel sorry for you, and Arizona's banged up too. I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit. As you said perfectly, you're halfway through towards the end of the season. Everybody's banged up. So, yeah. So for me, Couz, it's next man up. It's mentality of health, and we'll see who performs.
Yeah, it's a great one. I like it. That's one I didn't have wrote down, so that's a good thing, right?
Yep.
My first key is being able to cover Tetairoa McMillan. Tetairoa McMillan, he's not having this explosive year that he had a year ago. Some of that's mostly not on him. More than likely, it's on some of his teammates, which we'll probably talk about later in the show. But he's still a really good receiver. I mean, heck, has 780 yards receiving, averaging 111 a game. So he can put up numbers. And West Virginia secondary has the lowest coverage grade in the entire Big 12 at 34.
Yeah.
34. Average is like 65. It's 34. Second lowest is Texas Tech. They're at 51. So that tells us how bad West Virginia secondary is struggling to cover people right now. And Tetairoa McMillan is going to be trouble, in my opinion, for them. He's probably going to get his. He's probably going to get his yards. Can they just make sure nobody else gets them along with him? Right. That's going to be the tough part, because they do have other receivers on that team as well that are pretty talented. But just covering Tetairoa McMillan and those Arizona receivers, to me, is going to be critical in the game.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. And I will, so that we're not spoiling it, I'll just go ahead and say it because I actually had that listed third. But so that we're on the topic, I'll just say that that's my second part.
Okay.
And here's the reason why. You articulated that perfectly. Because one thing that I thought was pretty interesting, his splits are interesting to me. He's a good receiver anywhere. But 514 of his yards are at home. All 4 touchdowns he's got this year at home. He had a game this year at home, 8 catches, 161 yards at home. He had a game of 10 catches, 304 yards at home. Seems like everybody likes to be home.
Yeah.
Maybe not West Virginia or Neil Brown. Sorry. But
if you know, you know.
Yeah. But he likes to be at home, apparently. So I actually had that listed third, but you articulated well on the WVU side. He is really, really good. And then unfortunately for West Virginia, you put him at this secondary. Because I'd like to give you a master class here of schemes and personnel that I think West Virginia is going to do. I would just be filling space because I don't have any idea what they're going to do. But I know numbers don't lie in this case, and West Virginia struggles. Because last week against Kansas State ran 5-yard patterns and turned around and took them for 18, 20 yards. I don't know what they're going to do, but I know if you allow him to have a 304-yard night or a 161-yard night, and I didn't even mention the 138-yard night, it's going to be an early night for us because we're probably not going to be around to watch the tail end of it. So
exactly.
I had that listed a third, but you mentioned it well, so I'll just go ahead and slide it up one somehow. And there are others, but you have to control him.
Yeah. All right. My second key, controlling the clock and running the football. West Virginia needs to keep its defense off the field as long as possible for the reason I just mentioned. McMillan, the Arizona pass game, West Virginia secondary struggling. If your secondary is not on the field, they can't struggle. Keep the football, take care of it as part of that. Run the ball successfully, which you weren't able to do the last 2 games. And I just looked a minute ago and saw that Iowa State has either the 15th or 16th best, which would be the worst or second worst run defense in the conference. West Virginia still couldn't run it on them. But anyway, I digress. Arizona's run defense is actually statistically better than Iowa State's. So can West Virginia run the football, control the clock, keep that secondary off the field? And I hate to keep bashing the secondary, but
yeah,
I mean the numbers are what they are, man.
yeah.
You can't hide from it. So yeah, control the clock.
Yeah, I agree, and it'll be curious because it's weird, right? Like you felt like West Virginia was going to be able to run the football against Iowa State. They were not able to do that. You felt like you wouldn't be able to run against Kansas State, number 2 ranked rush defense, and they actually had a little bit of success there. So it's just weird. But I agree. The best way to stop a good offense is to keep them off the field, right? So very important. But that goes back to what we were talking about with the health factor for West Virginia. If Jahiem is out, I think we would both agree that CJ Donaldson, even though he's in the best shape he's been in, it's mid to late season. He's probably not going to give you 30 carries. So does Jalen Anderson slide in there? What do you do with backups? Are you running Garrett Greene? You're probably not, right? Even if he plays. So I'll be curious how West Virginia wants to work that clock management. But it's a great point and one that's taken that it needs to be done to keep Arizona off the field.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. What is your third key?
Yeah. So again, number 3, I actually had number 2, but we switched that up, and I said that they would be a little awkward, or maybe a little different. It's probably a better word. What's West Virginia's headspace going to be? I think they have to be in a good headspace. I jotted that down once earlier this year, coming into the Kansas game. I jotted that down. West Virginia lost a huge game against Penn State, struggled early, but beat Albany, lost to Pitt, that whole debacle. And I wrote that down at that point in time when we did the Kansas episode is where's your headspace? And I think it applies here. You know, if you followed a lot of West Virginia and you are here because of West Virginia, not necessarily Arizona or other Big 12, you know, because it's been a rough couple of weeks, man. We've got Neil Brown in press conferences saying things he maybe shouldn't. We've got viral videos. We've got coaches deleting social media accounts. We've got coaches that are blocking people on social media, and it's all over the place. It's not, and that doesn't even factor losing 2 games at home, night games
in
at
prime
home.
time.
Prime time, because it's been a rough couple of weeks all across the board. You're starting to hear rumors of coaching changes, assistant changes, all that. And guess what? These players see it, and I don't think that they should be subject to not hearing it. I mean, these are paid athletes now. But I do think in a way it's kind of hard to block it out. So weirdly enough, I think it's probably a good thing that they're going out west. And I actually agreed with Neil Brown when he said they're going to take the back against the wall mentality. They're going to load up on a plane as a group, as a unit, just us, and let's go. So I'm curious to see how their headspace is. Is the noise too much? Or do they start that crumble a little bit about it's another loss when they get down? Is it another, I'm going to hear this, we're going to hear that, my social media? So maybe a little bit of a different off-the-wall answer there for you, but, you know, we are dealing with 18 to 20, 21-year-old young men. And so I'll just be curious where they're at mentally in their headspace.
Yep, that's a great one. This is not really my third one, but I just want to throw this in as a bonus. Will traveling 3 time zones away affect them at all? I think it potentially could. A lot of people say it don't matter. It will. I think it could matter. Your body reacts differently when you're in different time zones, right? So I'll be anxious to see how that affects them as well. I don't have that written down. That was just something that came to my mind. So that's kind of a bonus. But the one I had wrote down was actually stop Arizona's pass rush. Now, when you first look at Arizona's sack numbers and things like that, nothing blows you away. I think the one who's leading the team in sacks right now only has like 3. So it's nothing that will blow your socks off.
Yeah.
But as a team, they do really well. They have the highest pass rush grade in the Big 12, according to Pro Football Focus, with 72.6. They have a more of a team approach at rushing the passer. They have several guys who have a double-digit success rate in the pass rush game. So, they have two really good edge rushers. They have good linebackers. They have safeties who come in and blitz you. So, can West Virginia's offensive line and their running backs and their tight ends be successful stopping Arizona's pass rush? Because especially if Nicco ends up starting the game. Nicco has been prone to hold on to the ball too long. He has been prone to step into sacks. He's not quite as experienced as Garrett is.
Right.
He does have a couple starts under his belt, but 2 starts is not a season and a half. Right. Garrett has. So that would be a concern if either one starts, but especially if Nicco starts, I'm a little bit concerned about the Arizona pass rush.
Yeah, and Nicco's been banged up a little bit too. We found out after the game. So, yeah, good point. You have to be able to control that. You've got to allow him. That time, right? Because he doesn't give you that Garrett Greene scramble as much. So, yeah, good point. You've got to have some time. And again, I hate to keep harping on it, but if you've got a backup tackle, if Donaldson's out of the game, you got Jalen Anderson in there, who hasn't got a ton of playing time. Is Yates still having some of his issues, and that's on his mind? So there's a lot of moving pieces there, but yeah, great point.
Yeah, and just since I mentioned Arizona's pass rush grade, West Virginia's pass blocking grade is 10th in the Big 12. Actually, I thought it would be higher. It's not a terrible grade. It's 74.2.
I did think that would be higher, though.
Yeah, I did too. They're 10th in the Big 12 in pass rush grade. So. Or pass block grade, I'm sorry. Pass blocking grade is West Virginia. So I wanted to throw that out there just as a comparison. I thought that was a little surprising.
Yeah.
All right. Now let's move over to the next segment of the show, and that is our 2 key position battles. Jonathan, what's the first position battle you want to talk about?
Yeah, so for me, I think we kind of alluded to it, but it's the West Virginia secondary against Arizona quarterback, and I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Couz, correct me if I'm wrong. Fifita?
Yes.
Noah Fifita. We talked off air, by the way, how Arizona has some of the most difficult names to pronounce, and I want to be respectful and get it right. I don't envy play-by-play announcers, for sure. Right. Here's the reason why I said it, Couz. You can't let this be a get-well game. We don't want to keep beating a dead horse about our secondary. Everybody knows it. I just want to go over some numbers with you that he's had, right? Last year, he was over 72% completion percentage, over 2,800 yards, 25 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. This year, he is under 60%, 9 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Because, and I felt like this was kind of funny as well. In October this month, 55% completion percentage, 2 touchdowns, 6 interceptions this month. So he's struggling. Arizona's struggling. They've lost 3 straight. So I feel like this secondary, with all their problems, we've talked about the dynamic receivers for Arizona. Their quarterback is traditionally been pretty well. It's been a down year for him, but let's not forget that the talent is there. So this absolutely cannot be a get well game for him, because he is struggling, especially this month. And so you can't let him get hot against this secondary. Have to contain him.
Yep. That's a great point. And one way you do that and help your secondary is what?
Keep them off of it. Yeah.
So the first position battle I have is West Virginia's defensive line.
Yeah.
Against Arizona's offensive line.
Yeah.
If you can get pressure on Noah Fifita, maybe he'll make one of those turnovers. Maybe he'll throw one of those interceptions. Maybe West Virginia can finally get a turnover that they haven't been able to do in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I guess technically. Both of these teams are on the wrong side of the turnover margin this year.
Yeah.
So winning the turnover battle, even though that's not one of the keys I have here, it kind of goes into this. If the D line can get pressure off of Fifita, maybe it helps force a turnover. Or even if you get in the backfield, and get some TFLs in the run game as well, maybe you force a fumble, whatever.
Yeah.
But just wreak havoc, try to create chaos, and maybe the ball will hit the ground or land into one of your defender's arms.
Yeah. Yeah. I said this earlier, and so I'll piggyback because that was crazy enough one of my position battles. And one thing that stuck out to me was he's been sacked 13 times this year.
Yeah.
13 times. So, yeah, I'll jump right into that. And you said it well. I probably should just give you the floor for another 2 minutes.
I didn't have any more to say. So,
but he's been sacked. We do think that they're going to have a tackle that's out of the game. So they're going to be playing some backups there.
I forgot to mention that. Thank you.
Yeah, they're going to have a tackle out. And so they're a little beat banged up on that offensive line too, and they've already been prone to give up sacks, 13 this season. So it's a good opportunity for West Virginia to get into that backfield and create some havoc. So yeah, so my second position would be just the same thing. If with this secondary struggling, you either A, want to keep that offense off the field, which we talked about earlier, or B, you want to generate that pass rush, and Arizona's been prone to give it up. So, yeah, for me, same thing.
Yep. Awesome. All right. My second position battle is, by the way, before I get to that, I want to back up a minute and talk about, you talked about injuries. Speaking of injuries, don't forget our injury attorneys, Katz, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner. If you've been in a car accident in West Virginia, or need a medical malpractice attorney, they are the folks for you. Go to yourlawyeryourvoice.com. But speaking of injuries, when I was talking about the West Virginia holding on to the football, controlling the clock, and running the ball, Arizona has a star linebacker named Jacob Manu, who's also out for this game. He's out for the rest of the season. So that should help with them running the football, right? We saw this. Oklahoma State had some players out. West Virginia capitalized. Can they do that again? I wanted to make sure.
He's their leading tackler, by the way, with 47.
Right. So I wanted to throw that out there before I forgot. But back to the position battles. West Virginia's offensive tackles against Trey Smith and Chase Kennedy coming off the edge for Arizona. They have a combined 34 QB hurries. Now, to put that in 5 sacks, to put that in perspective, they're tied for the same exact amount of QB hurries that West Virginia's TJ Jackson and Sean Martin have, 34. So they are good at getting in the backfield and rushing the passer. And if Wyatt Milum doesn't play in this game, which there's a chance he might not, can Johnny Williams step up and either protect Garrett's blind side, or if it's Nicco, protect his front side, and keep them out of his face? And of course, Nick Malone on the other side, as far as we know, he's healthy. So can those two West Virginia tackles keep those edge rushers for Arizona out of the backfield?
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. And they really like Johnny Williams. Neil Brown specifically talked about him in the press conference today, and felt like he was somebody that they can trust there. Now, listen, I talked earlier, everybody believes that Wyatt Milum is going to play at the next level, so that's not an easy replacement. But then you also got to wonder that factor of how many reps has Johnny Williams had? Has most of that been against Nicco in practice, maybe with that second team? So is he actually maybe a little bit more comfortable there? So be curious to watch, but definitely an interesting point, especially with we don't know, but if Johnny plays at that tackle spot.
Right. Yep. All right. Next, let's go to our player to watch. Who is your key player to watch in this game for West Virginia?
Yeah, this is interesting one because of so many players out. We would sometimes pick Garrett. We'd sometimes pick Jahiem. Heck, I think we've picked TJ Jackson a couple times maybe this year. So I actually went with Nicco Marchiol and Garrett Greene, if I can do that. So the quarterback position. Here's the reason why I said that, Couz. First off, if Garrett doesn't play, we've got a backup quarterback in the game. Our backup quarterback, Nicco, did not look well in the second half against Kansas State, albeit the Arizona defense is not the Kansas State defense. We would agree on that. But we also learned after the game that Nicco's been a little bit banged up as well. So how many reps was he able to get? But let's say that Garrett does play. Because I don't know where I want to go with this. And here's what I mean by that. If Garrett doesn't play, what version of Garrett Greene are we going to see coming off of what we believe, no HIPAA violations here, what we believe to be a concussion? What does Garrett do best? Runs a football. He's reckless. Plays free. How limited is he if he does play? Now, listen, West Virginia has these answers, I believe, as we sit here to record this. It's not probably a mystery to them. But if Garrett plays, what version of Garrett are we going to see? I don't know that I feel comfortable just sitting back, letting Garrett throw the football all night long, because the one thing that makes him Garrett Greene, for lack of a better term, is those legs, them props. So I'll be curious to see if he plays. And then, again, to Nicco, there is he's not had many reps. He came in briefly against Oklahoma State, looked really good, but that was minimal. The second half against Kansas State was not good, but we found out he hadn't. So, because I sit here right now, and again, I think West Virginia knows, but I sit here right now, and I don't know what you're going to get out of the quarterback spot.
Yep, I agree.
And so, for me, the one to watch, and generally when I give these ones to watch, Couz, it's because I feel like there's an opportunity for such a huge game. Maybe this player matches well with that defense or whatever it would be. This one I went one to watch because I have no clue.
I'm with you.
And there's so many question marks whether they go with Garrett or whether they go with Nicco. There's so many question marks around the quarterback spot that it's more of a one to watch because I'm curious of what we're going to see, you know?
Yeah, that's a great point. I was actually thinking earlier today, would I rather have a Garrett Greene who can't run the football because of an injury?
Yep.
Or a healthy Nicco who can do whatever you ask him to do?
It's a great question, and I don't know the answer to that.
I don't either. I think my gut tells me I think I'd rather have a healthy Nicco because, like you said, I don't know that Garrett's the quarterback you ask to sit back and win the game out of the pocket. So
Arizona, by the way, Couz, Arizona's only given up 217 yards through the air. So I think if you're asking Garrett to just sit back and throw the football. Per
game, you mean?
Per game, yeah.
Okay.
So if you're asking him to sit back and just throw the ball, I don't know where they're going to go, and I don't know which one that I would prefer. But I don't know that I love the idea of having Garrett on the heels of a concussion and taking that mobility away or restricting it a little bit for him to sit in the pocket and throw the football 30, 35 times.
Yeah, because Nicco can run it too if you need him to. So,
yep.
Or are you too nervous to let him run it because you don't know if Garrett's not available?
Then you're going to Ryder
Burton, and how prepared is he? So it's going to be interesting to see how the coaches handle that situation if Garrett can't play.
Yeah, you can't predict injuries or you can't prevent them, but you can do your best, right? And so play calling will be huge.
Yeah. All right. My player to watch, I was not able to even I didn't even know who to write down, Jonathan.
Yeah, it's been toughest one of the year
because of all the injuries and all that. But so I'm just going to say, since I've kind of been, stuck on running the football and that being a key, I'm just going to say CJ Donaldson, because I think you feed CJ Donaldson, let him wear down that Arizona defense.
Yeah.
Maybe by the third quarter, they're tired of tackling this big guy. If Jahiem's available, he can come in and be your lightning, lightning back, or if maybe Jalen Anderson can come in and have, we've seen Jalen Anderson play good in the past. I don't know what's happened to him, but I mean, he's not even getting on the field much this year outside of special teams. So maybe if Jahiem doesn't play, maybe Jalen Anderson comes in and does what he's been able to do in the past on occasion.
Yeah, good point.
He's got a little bit of wiggle to him, so maybe he can come in. But either way, the running back position, primarily CJ Donaldson, I think needs to have a good game in order for West Virginia to win a game to win this one.
Yeah, I agree. The question is how much load can CJ take? How much load do you want to give him? We sound so beating a dead horse here, Couz. We sound broken record. But these injuries are such a key. I mean, if Jahiem can go, how many carries do you want to give him? How much do you trust him? If he can't go, how much of a workload do you want to give CJ Donaldson? Because then after that, you're going to true freshmen. So, because there's so many question marks going into this game that I have no idea what we're going to see. But it does seem that if there's I don't want to say a lock, but a good pick for one to watch who can potentially have a breakout game, it would be CJ Donaldson. So good pick.
Okay. Now, score prediction time. What you got?
Because I've tried everything this year, man. I've everything but not showering. I've tried every jinx, every we went coal rush. I tried to insert myself in the Big 12 standings this year in comparison to West Virginia to see if they could finish higher than me, because every time I picked them to lose, they win. That ran out. Because both teams are struggling. Both teams are struggling. Arizona, I'll start with West Virginia. They've lost 2 in a row. If you're a fan of the show on the West Virginia side, you know that. Don't need to rehash it. Top-ranked teams, it's been ugly. I should know this, but I felt like I heard it. Last week's home loss was the worst home loss of Neil Brown's career at West Virginia.
Correct.
Thought that was correct. So, Couz, West Virginia is reeling, man. They're reeling. But you know who could be reeling worse? Arizona. They got a first-year head coach. They were 10-3 last year. They beat Oklahoma 38-24 in Alamo Bowl, and their coach left. They got a new head coach. They've lost 3 in a row. You know what the score is on average? The last 2, not on average, but they got beat by a total of the last 2 games 75-26. Ouch.
Yeah, they're struggling to put the ball in the end zone.
They're struggling. So just as much as we don't know about the health this game, just as much as we don't know about the mentality of this team, we don't have a clue who's playing. I don't know who's going to win. But I'll tell you this much. I think West Virginia is in a really bad spot. Really bad spot. Even though Arizona's not having a great year, it's their first year under this coach. I think when I see how bad West Virginia's secondary is and how potentially good Arizona's offense is, I just don't see it. I went Arizona 42. I went West Virginia 27.
Wow.
I think that
Arizona by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah. Because I want to believe, but when I see Oklahoma State, when I see Kansas State throwing 5-7 yard patterns and taking them for 20 yards, when I see our secondary playing 15-12 yards off the line of scrimmage, this game just has all the makings to me of Arizona's a team that's struggling. Their back's against the wall as well. They've got an offense that can score. We have a defense that can't stop anybody, if I'm just being frank about it. I see West Virginia or Arizona putting up a big number, 42-27.
Interesting. This is the kind of game Neil Brown can win. It's against an average to bad football team who's struggling. It is on the road, but here lately that hasn't mattered. I do think West Virginia can run the football against Arizona. It's even if Jahiem doesn't play, I still think they can run the football against them. I think they can control the clock. I like West Virginia's O line against Arizona's D line. I think it's a ball control game for the Mountaineers. I think they hold the ball for probably 32, 33 minutes, if not more. And I think they win the game, a low-scoring game. I'm going to say 28-24 West Virginia.
Oh, I didn't see it coming. I didn't see that. I love it. Wow.
I just don't think Arizona's not a good football team. I don't think. West Virginia's not doing great either, but I think when you look at Arizona across the board, you just see a lot more. Arizona's not real good at anything. Like they're not at West Virginia's really good at stopping the run. They're really good at run blocking. You know what I mean? They're really good at tackling. They're the best tackling team in the Big 12.
Yeah.
Arizona's not really good at anything other than what was the stat I read off earlier? Pass rushing. And it wasn't, and that score wasn't like blow you away. So they're not great at anything. And I just they're just you know.
Yeah.
Not saying they can't win the game because they could, and it's at their house, but I just think West Virginia has more. I think West Virginia across the board is a better team. West Virginia secondary does concern me, but I think West Virginia can limit possessions enough in the game to still win it.
Yeah. I would agree that it's a game West Virginia can win. Obviously, I mean, we'd be crazy if we said we didn't feel that they could win it as compared to maybe a Kansas State or an Iowa State or a Penn State. I mean, obviously, but I just have so much concerns, Couz, on that secondary. It's not been the year that they want, but Arizona's proven they can throw the football. Their quarterback's proven it. They've got a receiver that could darn well be one of the best in the country. And if we're just been kind about it, West Virginia has one of the worst, if not the worst, secondary in the country. It's just a bad mix for me to go all in. But I could see it being a game where if West Virginia can manage the clock and run the football and keep that offense off the field, they could win it. But I have to go Arizona.
That's fair. Well, Jonathan, real quick, man, I meant to do this earlier in the show and just forgot. Let everyone know where else they can find you and your work and what other projects you have going on.
Yeah, so you can find me on X at Jonathan K. Martin. It's on the screen there, but in case you don't know, it's a JONATHAN K. Martin. So, Couz, one thing about me is I'm pretty much a one-stop shop on X. All social media is just on that one platform. I do follow the team, give my opinions. I do articles there. There's some podcasts that's linked there. So if you can find my page, you can find everything about me there. So it's a one-stop shop for it. Obviously, these shows, the Gold Blue Breakdown, I'll link all that there as well. So we're easy to find, all in one place. So
yep. And we don't forget, we do have the Golden Blue Breakdown Twitter handle at @GBBreakdown_. If you want to interact with the show, it's a great way to do it. Or you can just reach out to Jonathan or I on individually. Like he said, he's at Jonathan K. Martin. It's JONATHAN. And I'm at Couz, COUZ206 for those who are listening. Check us out on X. Also, right here on the show, every Wednesday night during the season, there's a show called Matt's Big 12 Blitz. Matt Thornsberry talks about Big 12. He'll recap all the previous week's games, and he'll look ahead to the upcoming games, and he'll even give his score predictions for those games and kind of go over, kind of like Jonathan and I do, key players to watch and things like that. And it's a live show, so you can interact with Matt every Wednesday night, 7 o'clock, right here on Couz's Corner channel on YouTube. And also have a new channel that's part of the network called Hoops from the Hills. It's not really a new channel. It's a channel that I started with Mountaineer Paul a couple years ago. I've taken that channel over now from Paul, and you'll find myself, you'll find Shauna Rose, you'll find Zach Siegel. We're all going to be doing some work over there during the basketball season, covering Mountaineer basketball. So if you're in the West Virginia basketball, you want to give Hoops from the Hills a look, come check us out. We would really appreciate that. So with that being said, we really appreciate everything. Appreciate you listening to the show. Appreciate you watching the show. We will be back next week for the next edition, which will be the there's
It'll be a bye week.
It will be a bye week. So we may take a week off, we may not. Either way, you will see us again very soon. And the next game on the schedule after this one, West Virginia will come back home, or actually, no, they're on the road again, aren't they? To face the Cincinnati Bearcats. Yep. So
much improved Cincinnati Bearcats.
That's one I'm looking forward to breaking down. But anyway, thanks to everybody for tuning into the show. We thank you for your support here. Hope the rest of your day is top shelf. Let's go Mountaineers and Q Country Roads.